Welcome to WTPN, We the People Network. I'm Doug Molo, and I'm here with my co-host, Ed Dolezal. As always, what we share today is our opinion and does not reflect the views of WTPN. Ed, I called you this morning. I woke up. I was up till 2 in the morning watching some videos. And as you know, right now, there's a lot of inner turmoil going on within the Patriot community. As you know, we generally avoid mentioning names of people because our podcast is not really about calling out people as much as it is about we the people, right? So our primary focus here is to educate about common law and the correct and proper way our founding fathers gave us to stand up our republic and our grand juries in each county in the country. However, there was a podcast done by Michelle Moore, and she posted a whistleblower, a gentleman named, let's just call him Michael T. You can go watch the video for yourself. I'm not really promoting it because I think everyone has their own reasons for doing things and saying things. And there's many people who are claiming that this person is lying and twisting the truth. Of course, it's natural when somebody calls out someone to call them out themselves, especially a whistleblower. The first thing to do is discredit them and lash back. But I always believe there's two sides to the truth. So as you know, we do our best to keep things as pure and simple and to stay steadfast to the focus of the mission we have at WTPN. The mission is about we the people, right? So the reason why we're coming on today and I want to come on is just kind of clear the air and share our opinion and insight on what's going on. So once again, there are people in the spotlight, and though we don't really want to get involved with what they're doing right or wrong, it's worthwhile to bring up some people's names. But before we do that, I want to bring up the analogy that, let me ask you, if somebody's sick and dying in bed, and you promote that person's illness, and your intention is to bring light to the situation, and also maybe your intention is to help maybe rectify the situation, but you end up making a fortune of money on that situation, is that honorable?
No, in fact, that's what the de facto government did with this whole COVID bullshit, right?
Right. So my opinion is that it's not okay to manipulate a disaster, a problem like the situation our country's in. And you say that, you're for we the people while you're making buckets of money, especially when so many people are losing their homes, their jobs, they can't pay the bills, having trouble feeding their children. In many ways, it looks like our country is dying. Right? Just like the analogy. And so any podcaster, in my opinion, who has continually made money off this movement, in my eyes, is not really somebody that I feel warm and fuzzy about. Doesn't necessarily mean they're a bad person. It's not something that makes me feel comfortable. So it's one thing to ask people for donations or even to develop sponsorships or help promote a business to cover some costs, but to earn a massive profit above and beyond the average living you had prior to doing your part to save the country is something that it just doesn't sit well with me. And you say?
I agree with you. Well, two things. You said there are two sides to the truth. There isn't. There's just the truth, period.
Right. Well,
there may be two sides to a coin, but that's a different subject. The bottom line is getting people to become involved in the process, restoring a constitutional Republican form of government requires education. And the education is available if people are willing to, number one, commit, number two, look around for sources of information that have some reliability, and to realize, like I think we post on all of our WTPN live shows, connections to calls that are free and the education is provided free. The biggest challenge is not so much getting the information or the right information. The biggest challenge is committing oneself. People go, well, what have you accomplished? Not much, because the problem is huge, and we have a very limited team of people in our state and in others, and people don't realize that it's not a one and done. It's not a one and done. You've got to get off the couch if you want to influence the future and you'd like to implement a vision that is going to help the community, well, you have to jump in. So the bottom line is the information that I've been studying for the last 5 years has been free. Yeah, I've bought books here and there in other places just to verify the veracity and accuracy of it. And I can quote this, that, and the other. But ultimately, are you really serious about implementing a change that's going to be beneficial to you, your family, your grandchildren, and the community at large? And
Yeah.
do you expect other people to do it for you? No. Everybody has a set of skills, whether you're an accountant, you're a veteran, you know how to lock and load, you know how to butcher meat. I mean, ultimately, all those talents are out there. And what we've got to do is support people who can provide goods and services like it used to be, essentially. I try and avoid supporting the oligopolies that are out there that are controlled by BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard.
Okay.
All that stuff. So
Okay. I got to finish that up, but I'm with you on the oligarchies, and that's kind of a good segue of where I wanted to go, because what's happening is a lot of people are following these organizations. Now, you said you bought books. You bought a book here or there from different places. You didn't buy a book from the one place that sells you all the books you need, right? Because they established themselves as the common law book sale company to rescue the country that's in need. You bought books here and there and so forth. It wasn't one organization that's been put together to give you and deliver you everything you need and control everything you think about this one topic, which is we the people. So what we have here is, last night I was up till 2 a.m. and I watched the latest post from Scott McKay. I don't know Scott McKay. I never met Scott McKay. I always thought Scott McKay was a nice guy. Matter of fact, Scott McKay and I have a lot in common. Scott had a lot of bodily injuries, almost died. I was quadriplegic. All right. We both ride a Harley. Okay. We'd probably get along. And if I drank, it'd be nice to have a beer with him, But it's interesting because Scott was up in arms yesterday about the podcast that I mentioned before with Michelle Moore did, where she had a whistleblower on. And this guy was insulted, and Scott McKay was insulted that he accused Scott of taking money from Mickey Klon. Well, listen, personally, I don't care who Scott's taking money from. That's his business. But what got my interest was that Scott was very insulted by the word this guy used, or that's come up, I don't know who thought of it, called PATRIOT, meaning spelled PAY-TRIOT, meaning that a lot of these guys out there are pay-triots. They're getting paid. And, obviously that would insinuate that there was some control, which I could get. Scott's an independent guy, but he was really up in arms about it. And I'm not so sure why he or other patriots are upset, because some of the biggest podcasters have clearly made a career off the backs of the American tragedy of some of the patriots and the people in America and this country and what's happening to it. Scott McKay and others, though they may have a heart for America, they also have a huge heart for income, apparently. So why did money-driven patriots not like the word patriot?
Ultimately, it comes down to really using what God gave you, which is in between your two ears, your intellect, your discernment, and logic, quite honestly. I think that a lot of information that's out there from whichever publishers, a lot of it is helpful. However, you have to connect the dots, and that's what I think is missing.
Yeah.
And people have been so used to, the drive-up window where you get your stuff delivered like that. That's not how it works. Yeah. You have to spend some time, and why do you have to spend time? One, because you have to look for the information. Two, you have to deprogram yourself, right? from the matrix that we have been in for thousands of years, and to be able to say, no, I'm not going to do this any longer. I'm
Well,
going to be discerning. I'm going to be cautious, but I'm not going to support something that goes against my values. What are the values that we're talking about?
well, this is important, and I'm bringing this up because I have been kind of vocal to some degree about tactical civics. I don't know a ton about tactical civics, but from what I do know, I've voiced it, and I'm not going to go through it again and again. But it's come to my attention, and Scott admitted it last night. You know, I'm sure he has other times. He is the main founder or the organizer of tactical civics. And what I find about it is I have in the past said, well, if there's organizations where there's a hierarchy of people involved, and there's an organization where it costs any money to be involved with it, then I kind of steer away from it. That's my litmus test, because I know that we the people, right? The We the People organization is a self-funded organization where there is no hierarchy in the assembly. Every person has a vote. People bring their own resources, their time, their money, and everything, and their skills and talents to the table. This is how the founding fathers developed it and created it. So tactical civics has, according to Scott, has 8,000 people right now. So go to the website and log on, check it out, watch the video with another celebrity there, a big podcast celebrity who we're going to talk about next, and pay your $5. And then you'll notice that, well, it's not $5, it's $5 a month. Okay. So 8,000 people he claims he has right now. Do the math. It's simple math. 8,000 times 5 is 48,000 a month. Now, these guys are making 48,000 a month. There's a hierarchy there. There's money coming in, and this is not what the founding fathers created for assemblies. Now, Scott's vision of creating grand juries all around the country and grand juries, that is the vision. That's your and I vision. You know, that's the most important thing. But you can't get involved with an organization who's getting money for doing it. There's a hierarchy, and they're in control of the rhetoric. They're in control of what's doing. This is not about and for we the people. And again, I don't think Scott's a bad guy. I'd love him to come on the show anytime. Okay, his intentions are probably good, but it doesn't sit well with me. So anytime he wants to come on WTPN and discuss it, I'll be happy, and I'm sure you will, to discuss it and entertain it. And I'm not calling out the person. I'm just calling out and bringing attention to the people and what they should be looking out for. And I don't want to be claimed a disruptor, right? Because this is like the big mantra right now. Everybody's disruptor. Everybody has to come together and get along. Everybody's got to figure out what their differences are and change a little bit and go this way and that way so that we can fit in and work with tactical civics, and state nationals can work with everybody. And why can't state nationals be part of an assembly? And well, I didn't make up these rules. So Ed, why don't you discuss why it is that we have to kind of follow a certain way of doing things with the way the founding fathers set up the assembly? Now, isn't there a hierarchy? Didn't this come from a greater power than ourselves? Isn't there something relevant here that this is God's has ordained how things are supposed to work here?
Yeah, I mean, you start off the research and you go back to the Magna Carta from 1215 and all the different articles, and Article 61 with regard to the grand jury, etc. But ultimately, what is common law? Common law is common sense. So where do you get that from? It's a higher power. Initially, when I got involved with this thing, for all the obvious reasons that everybody has, family, grandchildren, etc., the things that they were pushing, which didn't make any sense to me. But ultimately, I've come to the understanding that we have to be respectful of God. The country at the time, or part of the country at the time, was inspired by Judeo-Christian values. And we have to submit to those values. I don't really see how we can move forward until we comprehend that. And most importantly, we espouse it. So everything we're doing has to start from there. And moving forward, as you said, this is not a top-down formula, it's a bottom-up, right? And everything devolves from mutual respect and doing no harm. And if you accidentally do harm, you've got to come up with a cure. And there's a whole process and procedure that relates to that in terms of filing claims. And if there's not responses, they go to the grand jury, or you can go directly to a common law court of record, etc. So there are remedies and possibilities to solve trespasses and injuries. But fundamentally, are you going to respect what God says we should respect? Are you going to respect one another, not kill, not steal, not covet another woman, etc.? I mean, that's what it's all about, ultimately.
Right, but that's correct, and I appreciate that. But in regards to what I'm trying to get to here a little bit more is tactical civics, they have a certain way of doing things, as the other big organizations do, but there's always this, something that doesn't jive with the General Assemblies, the elephant in the room. They're right now, it's my understanding, the tactical civics, and I didn't want to call out their whole, we do another show on it. My basic understanding is that they recognize the de facto, but they don't recognize the corporation. And that's going to end up getting people in trouble. Okay, they recognize, in other words, that people are breaking their oath and they're having people go after them and they want to set up grand juries, but they're not really addressing the corporation. I don't know for sure if that's true, but I do know that I don't really feel comfortable about any place where you have to pay to be involved. Okay, so that's my take on it. And I believe that there is a certain way to do things. And what I was asking you is the assembly that's been set up, the General Jural Assembly, as I call the lawful assembly, as our founding fathers set it up, it's set up in a way that we're following a certain pattern where people aren't involved in an organization, but they're involved in a community. And so that's why I find a problem with some of these other organizations. Do you concur with that?
I don't really, yes, I don't really see why one has to pay to become a member of some organization that allegedly is going to restore the constitutional republic, or even worse, an organization that charges a ton of money where you wind up being stateless.
Well,
I mean,
that's a good segue, because the next thing I wanted to bring up is, and I don't know that we'll post this, but I got to get off my chest, right? Ann Vandersteel, okay? Ann, my belief is that Ann started out years ago. She was a great, she had her own newscast agency and so forth. She's involved with state nationals, and aside from my issues with state nationals, I have a concern with people changing their status. The main spokesperson for state nationals organizations are not short of possibly being criminals, or at the very least, they should be investigated. There's a lot of doubt and misconfusion about every state has different policies for state nationals. Nothing is organized. And there's a lot of things about it that are not recommended, because people are getting themselves in trouble and not able to be part of an assembly. They're not able to vote, carry arms, and other things that have been established, and they become second-class citizens. And a lot of the patriots, in my opinion, have been taken out of the fight for state nationals. So Ann is completely involved with state nationals. The problem I have with her is that she had an opportunity with one of our members of our assembly in Sarasota. Her husband and her met with them, had dinner, and several times were invited before Ann really ran with state nationals to get involved with the assemblies, but she chose to go the other way. And so she has been a huge advocate of state nationals. Well, she opens up the video for tactical civics. And Scott McKay openly admits not being a state national, yet he's still working with Ann and has her promoting his organization. As I said, he funds tactical civics. And then everyone's just associated with them, which is Scott McKay. The whole thing he's doing, he's having this huge event coming up. Sasha Stone is there, Mel K is there. And, all these people are involved with the next big money-making event. And I'm just kind of tired of it. We, the people of the assemblies, were founded by our founding fathers, and we're self-funded organization. There's no corruption, no influence, and no greed. End of story. So, like I said, I believe Scott's got the heart for the patriot. He wants the best for the country. But, incorporating and bringing Ann Vandersteel, who is a state national, in to promote your tactical civics, to me, there's this thing about guilt through association. I'll tell you another story. Mel K, who I love. I love Mel K. Okay. She was one of the people who gave the best information about all of the big families, the pastors and everything. She drilled down and first told the Patriot community about how all this stuff, and she was a great researcher. Well, I had opportunity to meet Mel K. I've met with her parents, are wonderful people, praying for them. Mel and I had conversations. I handed her a letter and told her about the assemblies. I asked her, why aren't people talking about the assemblies on podcasts? She said, I don't know. Maybe they're afraid. Maybe they just don't know about them. She said, I don't really know about them. I said, well, I know about them. She said, well, why don't you come on my show? And we continued to talk and have communication, and we were moving into possibly doing a show together. And she then, about that same time, really started to get closer to Ann. They were always friends as far as I knew, but she got closer to Ann, and then I didn't hear from her anymore. And the next thing I know, and you were at an event with me up in Stewart in Florida, and Ann and Mel are standing together on the small stage, and Ann and Mel are doing tours together. Ann's promoting state nationals. Mel is kind of promoting tactical civics, I think, but in my opinion, this is called guilt by association. If you're standing with somebody on stage and you're doing something, has Mel K wrapped her arms around Ann? Has Ann wrapped her arms around Scott? Has Scott? This is an interest. I know you don't really like feeling comfortable talking about this, but what's happening here is we have all of these big podcasters melding into this kind of like, it's okay to be a state national. It's okay to be tactical civics. It's okay to do all these things as long as you're, a patriot and you want to stand up the new government. I think that there's a problem here, and I think it's a big one. But I just don't feel comfortable with people who are making money and promoting money items and money events, and also at the same time claiming that we're for we the people. And it's something that I have in my heart. And what do you say about it? Can you straighten me up about this? Am I wrong?
Well, I think again, I rely upon the discernment, intellect of the American people, quite honestly. And I can't deny, on the other hand, the thought that's coming through my mind right now is that some of these podcasters, correspondents, and so on, who have jumped on a hot topic, it's like the pet rock. Maybe this is what makes them stay relevant in their own minds. I can think of other correspondents who have broken away from the mainstream media and are very successful. You don't see them often because people don't like to listen to the truth, but ultimately, I think there is a degree of kind of like a wave. Somebody's just like a surfer, you're catching a wave. And this is the wave that seems to be a hot one right now, and everybody's jumping on. When this wave passes, it's still going to come down to brass tacks. We, the people, having to do the hard work, doing the research, using our logic, trying to connect the dots. When it doesn't connect correctly, then say, well, maybe that's not correct, right? So I've always been, a shoot, aim, and prepare kind of guy. I've completely changed my attitude, which is I'm going to wait and see what happens here before I jump in. And I thank God for having me be discerning and avoiding, listening to the government. I mean, certainly in the last 5 years, I've become more aware of it, and The skepticism has probably saved my life. So I pray for everybody out there that they're going to be safe. But ultimately, I think there's a degree of, oh, let's jump on this new shiny rock. And this is what sells great. Let's charge some money.
Yeah.
You know, people will find out in due course whether it solves their problem. And we don't think so, bottom line.
Well, since I've gone way down this rabbit hole, I might as well continue and just bury myself. But and again, I'm not saying anything bad about anyone. I'm just trying to say, hey, here's some areas of concern I have. I don't know why people get offended if they're making money and they, why people, I get it. People don't want to be called names and things, and I don't want to be, I don't want to be accused of certain things, but I just I would love a conversation. I'd love a conversation with Scott McKay. I would love a conversation with Ann Vandersteel. And the other person I would really, really love a conversation with right now is Mickey Klon. And I think Mickey is America's darling. I mean, this Bonds for a Win thing with Ann LaFleur was brilliant. I mean, geez, we remember how great it was. Everybody's dying for a common law, success. This was a common law success as far as I know, and as far as what I know about it. They got the Bonds for the Win, and all these kids got to take their masks off. And this was a real injustice that whether it was done, correctly or not, it seemed to work. And she's always been somebody that I've been following and thought, wow, this woman is exceptional and she's really great, and this is good for our cause, because it's about education. And so we're like, okay, we can point to something and go, okay, now let's come to us and come to others that are offering free education in common law and get educated. But recently, again, with this Michelle Moore, I don't want to get into it, what accusations were made with Mickey, because they're probably not true. But it has come to my attention that she has an organization called Operation Restoration. And I was like all excited about it. Matter of fact, after she did the last event in Maricopa County with this board working out, which is another controversial issue, there was discrepancies on why that happened and how it happened. And she did admit to it down the road that that she didn't actually give the speech before, and that's why they walked out. She gave the speech after. She actually said that. She also said that Ann Vandersteel sent this out and it went viral and she didn't even know. And so she's admitting that she didn't really know what happened, but she was kind of a victim. And that's great. She's honorable. But I go to the website and I put in my podcaster thing to say, because they were offering anybody who has a podcast or something that might want to come on, and I did it. And then I was looking through the website, and what do I come across? Tactical Civics. And so I go, here's a woman who is an advocate of common law. And, she's preaching to people to teach them a way to do things. And I'm very concerned about people getting in trouble with some of this stuff that we're teaching. We tell people this is a defensive tool. This is not right now. You do not want to jump into the de facto pool and start swimming because you're going to drown. And you have to be very careful about what's going on here. And we've seen people get in trouble recently, and we've seen it happen in the past, and people go to jail. And so I'm very concerned and passionate about that. And so when I see Tactical Civics on there, and I have some concerns about that, and I see that maybe they're all aligned, Tactical Civics with Ann Vandersteel and State Nationals, I'm thinking, well, is Mickey involved with State National? Are they all involved together? Like you said, it's this wave where you, and so I would love to have a conversation with Mickey. I think she's a stand-up person. I think right now she's somebody that we should look at and follow and see. But I'm concerned too, because the assembly, people in the assemblies are, looking for successes, and they're looking towards Mickey, and she has responsibility to, step up and say, hey, this is where I get my common law information. This is the people that I'm surrounded by, because this is what we do. We teach common law. And we have some of the greatest trainers available today, in my opinion. Roger Dowdell is incredible. We present his work. And I think it would be wonderful if we could all work together, right? So all I'm doing today is I'm not calling people out. I'm not doing that. I'm saying, hey, we're here. We're a common law platform. We teach common law. We don't charge money for it. And we'd love a conversation to make sure that everybody that is pushing common law is pushing the correct common law principles and the correct common lawful way to do things. And that is my concern. And that is why I wanted to do the show today. So I'm asking Mickey if she ever hears it, which she probably never will. If there's any chance that we could have a discussion, we'd love to get you together with Roger Dowdell and some of the other people, and maybe even Destry, if he's interested, to talk to her and see if we can all come on the same page and all work together. I think that would be a wonderful thing that could happen. And you say?
Yeah, I think it would be a great idea. I mean, ultimately people are always going to say, well, what happened and why is this so different? And have you had any successes? And I know you're going to post this when you put this podcast up as a link. I know that at least in Florida, we have statewide commonlawgrandjury.com where cases have been successfully processed using common law. And it was used essentially as a defensive mechanism, as you said. So, yeah, we do have examples. But the most important thing, and we welcome people that have been successful, like Mickey Clan, with regard to bonds for the win. The challenge is much broader than just bonds for the win and the common law course of record. People have to be willing to commit to an education and, if anything, follow those people that have a positive track record. So it's there. You're going to see the links at the bottom of this this podcast, and tune in. I mean, the calls are free. We have them on Wednesday night at 7:30, and then there's a state national one on Thursday, as I said, at 9 o'clock. And both of those are free,
Yeah.
So, but most importantly, you have to be willing to commit to changing your thinking. If you're not willing to accept that you may have some beliefs that will be vaporized, that's fine. Stay where you are. But ultimately, we're following God's law, period.
Yeah. And my concern is that, everyone's looking for successes, right? We all want successes. Everybody's just desperate now and tired. They want to say, oh, look, somebody, gotcha. We gotcha. You know what I mean? And that's why I really like Mickey. I like that she, was able to have a success. But at the same time, I have a real concern for everybody. I have a big heart for people. I have a frequency that goes out in love. And that's all I want to put out is love and caring. And my concern is that people are looking for little solutions. We saw people in state nationals putting license plates on their cars as a Texas license plate. And, Floyd talks about this too, and ended up getting in trouble and getting arrested. We're looking for people who are looking to just have an ID and say, I'm no longer part of the de facto, and then they're getting arrested, And so it's my concern that there isn't a small solution that you're going to be able to take. Everyone wants a simple solution to common law, to how we're going to go about this, how we're going to take these people out of office, how we're going to do this, how we're going to change this thing. And it really is not a simple solution. It's everybody has to become entrenched and what do you say? Comprehend, understand, or what do you say? What's your word? Understand or comprehend the common law themselves and their sovereignty individually, and really get versed in the vernacular and the understand and the comprehension of the law of the common law. And so it's not going to be a simple, hey, here A, B, and C, fill out this, fill out that, take this, and it's done. And it concerns me when I see people like Mickey that have successes, and other people are so desperate for a solution that, who are people levitating to? And I hope that Mickey has the right counsel, and I hope that we can have conversation with her, because I really am encouraged, like others are, about what she's doing in this situation. And it's a shining light in the darkness. I don't like the affiliations with everybody coming together and saying everything's okay with one group, because it's dangerous. But I do like unity, and I hope that we all can become united and move forward together in this republic. And the first and foremost way, Ed, right, is through education.
Yeah, education, absolutely. The other thing I wanted to mention, because there are a lot of people that, as you said, very, very profoundly have good intentions to and to bring solutions to the people, generally speaking. And a lot of people are working in the de facto or the corporation, if you will, and are unknowingly contributing to the repression that has been ongoing for decades. So when the time comes, and it will, there will be people that will be prosecuted by the military. There'll be people that will need to be prosecuted, and that's why we have the grand jury and the common law court of record. And then you have some people that are just innocent victims, if you will, that work within the system. And there will be a truth and reconciliation board that will be constituted as well in order to address those people who unknowingly, I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but they unknowingly are processing paperwork, collecting taxes, abusing our common law rights as men and women on the land. So we do have solutions. We do have a heart. We want to be compassionate, but we serve justice. That's all. That's our main concern under the common law and the grand jury, and of course, the common law court of record. So bear in mind that we're not going to come after you just because, there's a vacuum now. So here's our chance to bring out the bats and chase people down the street and hang them. No, there is a process under common law. We have to be respectful, compassionate. And so there are remedies available. But you have to learn about common law, bottom line.
And one of the most beautiful things about common law, in my opinion, is it obviously comes from the creator, because it's not black and white. It's not cut and dry. There's something called nullification, right? And you talked about some people are doing things and they don't really know what they're doing. And compassion is key within the common law. And the combination of nullification and compassion are, God's way of, I call it grace, right? And through that nullification process, there is a way of having grace. We all can make mistakes, and under maritime law, that's not the case. But under common law, we are able to make mistakes, and there will be justice, and it will come down hard, but there also will be nullification. And that's our hope for actually most of the state nationals who have separated themselves. And in many cases, the people that got them involved became the fiduciary for their paperwork and everything else. And hopefully they'll be made whole with some of the money they've lost to the false banking things that they've been led into. And this is why I'm really, really upset and concerned with what Ann's doing out there. I really hope she comes to awareness that she needs to really follow the common law. But on a positive note, nullification's there, and we can bring everybody back into the fold, back into the republic, unite everybody through that nullification process. And Ed, I know, Ed, you're working on some of that to try to help to do that now. So anyway, this has been an interesting commentary. I hope that, I didn't overstep. I am passionate about it. I'm concerned for people's well-being. I just want answers. I want to have conversation. I would love, like I said, again and again, I'd love to have a conversation with Scott McKay. I'd love to have a conversation with Ann Vandersteel. And I'd certainly, most of all, love to have a conversation with Mickey, because I think she is America's darling right now. And I think that's a good thing, because it's put a shining light, a spotlight on common law. And that's a positive thing. I just hope people can come here and get the truth as far as it goes with how to learn it and how to really study and know the truth. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate your passion and the research you've done. And of course, again, at the bottom of the podcast, there will be links to statewide common law grand jury as far as Florida is concerned, and the Wednesday night conference calls, And of course, Thursday night as well, the national call. And they're free.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you, Ed. I appreciate your time, and good to see you got your Tai Chi gi on. Do you call it a gi in Tai Chi as well?
No, it's just a tunic, but yeah,
It's just-
it keeps me sane, if you will. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for your time and your calm demeanor, which keeps me grounded. And I do enjoy this relationship. And we've had a lot of people comment on how different we are.
What do they call it? Yin and yang, right?
In a good way. All right. Well, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you
Take care.
soon. Take care.
Bye.
God bless. Bye-bye.